So here's our last scene, another exterior, and this time a pretty heavy one. Not including the proxy trees. We've got some Maxwell proxy trees out here on this side and the other side of the river. And just the mesh alone, not including those trees, is about 1.5 million polys. So let's just start moving around. The trees themselves, since they're proxies, I'm not sure exactly what it's considering the poly count. I mean, ultimately for light voxelization, it's all there, so there's no tricks. But it is saving RAM, I assume, with the proxies. And we're running on medium quality. And we're lighting exclusively just with an HDRI. Now if we look over here, you can see where the sun is. And it does clean up pretty quick, considering everything that's going on here. So in a couple seconds you have a pretty decent image starting. Material wise, a couple large masks, one for the frozen lake here with some areas of refrozen water. And then we've got the rocks. The snow itself is just a bump map over a matte, white matte material with a little bit of flaking on it. And then within the container house here, a little bit of AGS glass. Inside we've got some reflective or glossy floors and whatnot, but not a whole lot else going on. No emitters on. They're there, but I don't have them on right now. And exposure wise, just running pretty much a daytime, exterior exposure. But definitely handy. You can certainly make on the fly color choices, switch out your HDRIs, etc. Also something I didn't realize right away, but I noticed on the Maxwell forums it talked about a bit, which is that you want to go in and actually disable your gamma correction within Max. If you go and turn that on, or if you have it on, as I usually do by default, this is what you get. So it washes it out. So even though when you're rendering a Maxwell it totally ignores that setting and it just does what it's going to do, it being an active shade viewport, it is tethered to this setting. So what ends up happening is you get double gamma, and then you get washed out scenes like this. So if you think your scene's looking a little washed out, that's probably what's happening. So you got to go in, turn that off. As far as edits, let's unfreeze the building. So let's unfreeze that. We'll go ahead and see if we can play with the color. I've noticed some strange behavior. Let's see if it does it here. But once you get to a scene of a certain size, I don't know if it's because on smaller scenes there's a quick export process where it just additionally modifies that one object and re-exports the mesh, or I'm not sure what happens, but if we go and we change, say we want to change that to a blue building, we actually don't get a change. Something's happening, certainly, but because if we go and move the camera, we see blue building here, not blue here, and then eventually we'll see that it's actually revoxelizing. It eventually comes back. So, not sure what that threshold is, but once you get into a big enough scene, you can steer the camera around fine. It's pretty interactive, but once you go and start trying to adjust things, you do have a bit of a wait before you see the change. So I would be curious to know have to do some more testing and see where that line is. But once the change is in there, you're good to go. That's not true though or I should say the weight isn't true of cameras. So if we go and we just play with this exposure here, so if we tighten that up to 12, we get an immediate feedback. So it's certain things, it's not everything. So it is worth noting that the performance is a little different on the heavier scenes. You can move around fine, you can change your exposure fine, but some of the settings that the lighter scenes didn't have any trouble with, as far as editing materials, changing your light setup from Maxwell Sky to IBL and back and forth, those didn't seem to have any problems on the lighter scenes. But in here, it required it to re-export, and with this scene, you certainly wait a little while for that. But that's my walkthrough of Maxwell Fire, so hopefully you feel you got a little better idea of what to expect if you're considering picking up Maxwell in the future, or if you've already got it, but you just haven't jumped into the update. Pretty exciting. I think it's definitely the right step for Next Limit. Huge time saver when it comes to setting up emitters and your exposure and your depth of field, and these are things that you usually either have a really good feel for the particular scene you're doing and just trust that you're not going to spend too much time tweaking it, or you really have a lot of trial and error ahead of you. So this takes a lot of the guesswork out and lets you just see what's going to happen right up front. So anyway, that's it.